So you can see in the bottom of your screen, there is that section that's called reactions. Whoever wants to speak up, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself while everybody else please remain muted. Fernando?
Yes, I mean, I think so. Maybe we should start with our most recent type of problem, the war between the Ukraine and Russia, and I can't help but recall at our retreat this last weekend, one of our brothers from Miami was recounting about his war experience, and his comment was that all war does is cause trauma for everyone involved, for the winners and for the losers. So much suffering, over there, on all parts, and so I'd be interested in knowing how people are handling it. How are they viewing things from their own minds?
I'll start. I thought I had everything straight in my mind about war. If I were, for example, younger and were to be drafted, for example, I would definitely be a conscientious objector. That's my position. On the other hand, when I reflect back to, for example, World War II and Nazi Germany and the extermination of 6 million Jews and many, many others, if we had intervened militarily sooner, we could have saved a lot of lives there. And sitting idly by and watch people slaughtered is another problem. And so that's why I'm conflicted with this war, because on one hand, how can we stand by and watch, Russia for unprovoked invading a country and slaughtering its citizens? One of our allies, how can we stand by and just watch that happen? On the other hand, if we intervene militarily, what if, and it's possible that might light the spark for a nuclear event or two. And in that case, many more people would suffer and die. So, as you say, what's the answer to that? It's an inner conflict, and I'm grappling with that right now.
John Bang Yan. Being growing up and raised in an Asian environment, ethics is being taught in grade school. I think most of the Asian countries also, ethics being taught in grade school, how to be a good citizen, how to contribute to the community and the nation. Unfortunately, that is going away in place. We have more either natural, technical course, bio course, and more political science type of courses in place. So that is not a good trend. And the Dharma teachers that have rooted from Asia area, it's not only influenced by Buddhism, because it's also influenced by Confucian and Tao's, because those also have strong ethics during their studying. So we kind of have a mixture of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucian ethics. From the Buddhism point of view, everything relates to karma, whether you generate good, wholesome, or unwholesome karma. Being good ethics, that means you try to avoid to generate unwholesome karma and try to encourage to generate wholesome karma. So I think that is the root principle, and the practice is the skillful mean how you apply those. You can, like your presentation, you can see it in the 6 perfections, in the precepts. So basically, outside we have our body, our speech. That is a manifestation of what we're thinking. So there are methods to getting those to avoid, through the Eightfold Path practice, to avoid generating unwholesome karma and to enhance wholesome karma. So I think that's the guiding principle. In terms of those kind of difficult issues, like abortion, for example, I think the Buddha do have a sutra. He explained about the birth process. When life begins, but the timing is not certain. Also, you can kind of see that in the book of the Tibetan book of Living and Dying. They also explain the rebirth process. When the fetus start having the consciousness is where that life begins. But we, with our omnivision, we cannot know exactly when that happens. It's all related to the proper condition. The same thing with clone. From the Buddhism point of view, clone, we just create a physical condition for consciousness to attach to that physical condition, and that is when life began. So it all related to karma and how things happen. In terms of war, I think we need to think about suffering and how to help to reduce suffering on both sides. Right now, the Russian war with Ukraine, definitely from the news you see more side on the Ukraine, more suffering on the Ukraine side. But in Russia, because of all the sanctions, people of Russia are suffering also. So in terms of how to resolve it, it's a very delicate, skillful mean. When I was studying under a Tibetan monk, I also asked that kind of question. And his answer is that it's okay to kill if that saves people. You did a bad karma, you have to pay for that. But saving other people from suffering, you also have a merit for that. So in terms of karma, it's very clear, very distinct. Even the Buddha, he also experienced some period of intense headaches, because in one of his past lives, when he was a kid, he didn't do the act, but he saw a bunch of kids hitting a fish with a stick, on the fish head, and he's kind of standing there, you know, not discouraging to sit, but kind of okay, you know, looking at that, and that consequence is the result that of that unwholesome deed that even the Buddha still have to experience the karma of that action. He had a terrible headaches. So it's a delicate situation. The resolution we want to reach is to do whatever, either aids or whatever, to reduce the suffering. And if you have proper means, even though it's like have to kill someone, but if that save people and save suffering of a bunch of other, then it's up to you to decide whether you would want to take that bad karma to save people from suffering. That's all. So I'm buying out.
Debbie?
Unmute, thank you. You know, it's so very difficult with what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine. I, like Kathy, had sort of thought I was a pacifist, but I do know that there are many places in the sutras where it is acceptable to kill a few to save many. Personally, I feel very conflicted about and thankful that it is not my decision. But I'm not really sure, you know, what I as an individual can do. You know, I wish I could do something. I don't know what to do. I feel that what's happening is so wrong, and yet I understand the struggle that is going on in our nation's capital over attempting to protect people, and yet, you know, that fine line between being a NATO member and not provoking a nuclear attack. But it's painful to watch the images that come across, and I wish, you know, again, I feel helpless. I feel helpless. I wish there was something that I would just love some direction around what to do. Anyway, Deborah, bowing out.
Ted?
Yes, Ted bowing in. Really nice to be practicing with everybody today. And wow, what a tough question. I was thinking, I too think that what was shared at the retreat this last weekend, that there are no, everybody becomes a victim in war. I don't think any of the Russian soldiers who are doing these atrocities really want to be there, nor do they really have any choice. But what's happening is also very awful. So in terms of what can be done, I mean, nations have to decide what they do, hopefully on good leadership. I do think, however, there is a lot that can be done that is nonviolent. I'm thinking of examples when that has been successful in history. So for instance, nonviolence of Martin Luther King during the civil rights struggle had a very strong effect. Gandhi's nonviolence to get out from under British imperialism also had a strong effect. You know, skillful understanding of what's going on is helpful. Wars cost a lot of money. You know, we have aspects of the Eightfold Path and the precepts, you know, right livelihood, and you know, I really like the idea that what we consume also is a component of right livelihood. So understanding it and learning about it is proper, I think. With all the economic sanctions in Russia, for instance, it seems like they pretty much disabled their ability to draw on their own saved resources. But the sale of oil is a huge way to fund the Russian military right now. The United States can cut off our oil because I think we only get 10% or something less of our oil from Russia, so we just stop refining it. Europe, however, gets 50% of their oil from Russia. And so they can't exactly just stop that right away. But, maybe we should help Europe with their energy situation. Actually, we can do something there. Every drop of gas that I do not burn is a little bit more that's available to the free world, for instance. These types of things. So there's something small that I can do. The other thing is that, obviously the aggression right now with Putin is due to an autocrat. Well, we have autocratic tendencies in our country. We can make sure that we don't become autocrats. We will be stronger if we keep our own things in order. And help other countries to do that. Like in Thich Nhat Hanh's, what is his famous poem? I forget what it's called, but it says, "I am the criminal." Also, recognizing that we have the capacity for evil, and let's prevent the arising of that from occurring. Prevention is very helpful. I live in the country, so one of the ways I prevent mice from living in my house is by not feeding them. That works. That solves a lot of the problem. Preventing, if we don't like what's going on elsewhere, let's make sure that doesn't happen here. But these are really difficult situations. And definitely people are being harmed and suffering for no good reason. But I can go about my daily life and say, what small things can I do that are economic in nature that might be helpful, for instance. And if a lot of people do that, then there's an impact. So anyway, just some ideas. I don't think they're perfect solutions, but not becoming what I don't like is also really helpful. So anyway, Ted bowing out. Yeah, please call me by my true names. That's correct. Yeah, that's the poem. Thank you.
I think also that we have to be careful to tease apart the feeling from the individual. We despise the emotions and what Putin is doing, but we should not get so involved personally thinking that is evil. Who knows? Who are we, anybody, to judge anybody else? I remember how sad I was and surprised when bin Laden got killed, and there was so much rejoicing in the United States. I think it's a time to be sad. I mean, whether this had or didn't have to be done, I'm not going to go into that, but I think we should be sad that another human being died. Same thing I felt when Fidel Castro died, even though he had caused so much suffering. I just think that we need to try to influence others to look at things differently. That we need to act against the actions, but not really, not misidentify the individual, because that if you don't change that, the conditions that causes that action is not going, somebody else will pick up and do the same thing. So but I think that and we know that there are hints, in the Dhammapada, you read about the Dhammapada says hatred is never appeased by hatred. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is an eternal truth. So that how can we as Buddhists diffuse some of this anger, so much this hatred for other peoples? Look at what happened in the United States. People were afraid to dress their Muslim garb because they thought they were going to be accosted and identified with terrorists. I think that kind of behavior is, we need to be active in trying to teach others that they're misrepresenting all people just by the hatred caused by one individual that who knows what their conditions led them to be that way. So, but there's no right or wrong, answers to any of these problems. But I think that we need to sort of get it. I share, Deborah, with the feeling of what can one do? What can one do to alleviate the suffering? And I've just been trying every day to do Tonglen meditation for the people of the area on both sides. Obviously, you're trying to do other things like all the things that we could that Ted mentioned and that we could potentially do. But I do believe that prayer can help, and just keep doing it. Volunteer and going to war over there is not the answer. There are many conditions that led to this. This didn't happen overnight. This has been going on for years, this conflict between Ukraine and Russia. It just came to a head now for probably economic reasons for Russia, or for power reasons for Putin, who knows? But we need to try to understand how they got to this point and what could have been done before. But
Faculty, I'm bowing in. I just wanted to say one more thing, and this is pretty self-evident. However, I was reading about what's that guy's name, the world chef, who founded an organization after Katrina, and he went over there to Puerto Rico, after the hurricane, and he's been all over with his organizations worldwide, and now they're over there. They were there the same day the fighting started, providing relief to refugees whoever they are. And his main thing is feeding people. And a few days ago, I read they've served 2.5 million meals to refugees. Already, and that was a few days ago already. So I think, that's something we can do, is to support organizations that try to alleviate the suffering of refugees who are affected by this, stuff like that. And, I don't have very much money, but I had a little, and I gave it. And if everybody did something like that, it would make a difference. So that's a little something that we could do that's a little bit more concrete, that might provide some relief for us too. Bowing out.
Doctors Without Borders is also over in the Ukraine, trying to provide health related help.
John Bang Yan. I think my son is on spring break this week, so he came home, and in one of the conversation he asked me, on our Earth, is there any period where there's no war? And you think about it, no. It always have a war happening somewhere on this Earth. There's no period where there's no war on this Earth. And he said, Dad, do you know that 40% of the steel manufactured in this Earth going to build guns and tanks? I said, wow. So being a Star Trek fan, one day I, thinking about the war between Russia and Ukraine, I was thinking, well, if I have a Star Trek technology, I have a starship, probably I'll construct something like laser beam or magnetic pulse, whatever, aim down and make all the weapons so hot that nobody can hold it. That will stop the war. Sure, right now.
Tell?
Tail bowing in. Forgive me, I'm unskilled with the iPhone and Zoom. So I did just want to mention three things. One, in reference to our social activism and what we can do, because I know sometimes times like these can make us really feel helpless and overwhelmed. But as Sister Fatland said, one is donating whatever we can, and whatever we're available to give. Two is volunteering in any humanitarian effort that we can that may be happening in our communities, and this is in response to war, hunger, poverty, to everything, all these social dilemmas. And the third thing is we can vote, right? We can vote to see, to try to place like-minded people in places of in positions of power, people who care for the earth, people who are not so eager to go to war, people who are addressing racism and equality and equity, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to say that we all can do something, however little it may feel to us, but it is significant. I was once at a grocery store, and the young woman wants to give me a plastic bag, and I said, no plastic bag, I'll carry it out. I said, these these plastic bags are choking the earth. And she goes, yeah, but you not taking a plastic bag is not going to do anything. And my response was, well, if everyone thinks like you are correct. But if everyone thought like me, it would do a lot. So whatever little we can do, we just have to, again, lead by example. And that in itself is practicing social activism and practicing the Dharma. I also want to say that, karmic effect, quote unquote, that's such a loose, that's open to different interpretations, but I'm going to address it from this lifetime, and well, first of all, let me just go back to the use of force. We who took the Bodhisattva precepts, and it's towards the end, I think it's actually in the secondary ones, I think it's like 45 of the 46 that we will use force when necessary. That being said, and that's to the point of, if we can save many lives by taking one, or we can ease the suffering by taking one. That being said, we understand that there is a karmic effect, and that karmic effect doesn't necessarily come back in, the next, when we're reborn. That karmic effect is immediate. The taking of a life, I imagine, must be devastating. And as some of what has been shared within our Sangha communities, we've heard it directly, how difficult that is. So that karmic effect happens immediately. If we are willing to suffer that immediate karmic effect, in order to save more lives, in order to help ease the suffering, then that's something we, as individuals have to really contemplate and think about. And sometimes we won't have that. For most of us, we'll never need to face that decision. And we are extremely fortunate in that matter. But there are others who will have to face that decision. And we just hope and pray for, we can hope and pray for their healing, and for the healing of all of humanity. Teo, I went out.
Elena bowing in. So, thank you, Fernando, for teasing our brains to connect with our hearts and to think about, this violence and this harmony in such ways. This morning, earlier, Ted and I and a couple of other people were talking about merits and sharing merits. And we talked about sharing merits with the Ukrainian people. And then when we stopped talking and, more people came, it dawned on me that the suffering, and we talked about suffering and we agreed, yeah, we're going to share the merits with everyone that's suffering. But then it occurred to me that the people who are suffering in that side of the world is not just the Ukrainians. It's also, like many of you have mentioned, it's the Russian soldiers. It's the families of those Russian soldiers who are left behind, who, live with uncertainty as to the future, where they're going and what is expected of them or what's going to be the outcome. So suffering is in both ways, comes from, affects both sides of the spectrum. And I think it also occurred to me that being aware, being conscious that the victim is suffering just as much as the victimizer is important. And you, Fernando, mentioned understanding where the history of it, understanding where it comes from, understanding the why and the how. I think it is crucial so that we can be helpful to begin with by not being judgmental and labeling this one or that one as evil or good, but recognize the human condition as what it is in reality. You are suffering, I am suffering, regardless of what side we belong to, regardless of who we are or what social conditions we live in. We are both suffering. And recognizing that opens my mind to, in my heart, to be loving and to cultivate generosity and to be more open to supporting and assisting and accepting whatever comes from whatever side, because I am not being judgmental, and my actions and my thoughts and my emotions are not being driven by judgment, but by the fact of recognition that we are all suffering equally. So, Elena, bowing out.
So Fapley and bowing in. On that note, Elena, last Wednesday at our meditation service, we were talking about a very beautiful metta practice called Just Like Me. There's different variations of that, but in a very, concise way. It's exactly what you were talking about. And it's about this poem that we see over here in our chat. It's all the same thing. These people, these Ukrainian refugees are suffering, just like me. The Russian people are suffering, just like me. These people wish for happiness, just like me. So, Fernando was mentioning Tonglen, but this Just Like Me practice is a simple little thing that we could do all the time to help ourselves see things more clearly and develop understanding, which Thich Nhat Hanh says, without understanding, there is no love. So,
Elena, I wanted to finish up. Let's see where
I'm sorry, Fernando. Janet has a comment.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am very concerned about the situation and the strategy that is new are these sanctions, and the U.S. companies that are closing their businesses in Russia. I don't know if we ever had this happen to this extent, and however, there's repercussions from that, because like McDonald's has closed all their businesses and 16,000 people or something are out of work. However, McDonald's said they were still going to pay them wages, and who knows how long that will take. But like Coca-Cola and I don't know, there's numerous businesses that have closed down to doing business in Russia. And I don't know if these efforts are going to make a dent in Putin's plan, other than maybe agitate him more or create more extreme poverty and shortages. And so it's really a frightful thing. But I do have to say that the strategy of not fighting is really new. Everybody is like holding self-control. They're not like all those NATO countries. They're still trying to be peaceful. I think they're getting ready. However, we don't know. And for now, they're not using military power. So we just have to wait and see and pray, as was said many times this morning. Thank you for listening to me.
Fernando?
I just wanted to, let's see, where am I? So I wanted to finish it up with two quotes. One is from the Dalai Lama in his book, Ethics for the New Millennium. We cannot escape the necessity for love and compassion. Love for others and respect for their rights and dignity, no matter who or what they are. Ultimately, these are all we need. And then from Shanti Deva, this is one of the favorite prayers of the Dalai Lama. May I become at all times, both now and forever, a protector for those without protection, a guide for those who have lost their way, a ship for those with oceans to cross, a bridge for those with rivers to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, a lamp for those without light, a place of refuge for those who lack shelter, and a servant to all in need.